Like I said, I've already got it cleaned up and ready to go back in. I've had the clutches soaking in oil. I've got everything cleaned up. Basically, when you pull this is what you're going to see from the other side. Once you pull that out, this piece sits down in there. So this is what you're looking at where the clutches were sitting. This piece pulls out of the basket. There's a big flat washer on the back of that. This bushing in the middle will pull in and out. So you want to inspect that. There's little rollers inside of there. So once you pop that out, sorry, it's covered in oil now. You can see the little rollers in there. Make sure all the rollers are good. Take your fingers, make sure they roll around real well. No crust or dirt in there. If it is, clean them out. Re-lube it. Slide the insert back in there. Check all your little teeth for wear patterns, because if so the gear is going to slip or the clutch may slip. Check all the teeth on this. Make sure it all looks good. So I'm pretty much ready to go back together. The pusher sits behind this piece. So the pusher is actually on the inside. I think we pulled that out originally. Pushes against this, which releases the pressure against all the clutches and lets them spin. All right, the next thing I'm going to put on is the clutch basket. So right there's my main bearings. I'm going to go ahead and put this washer. I never took it out, but I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to take my clutch basket, slide it over the shaft. I'm going to keep my center bearing in there so I don't damage my rollers inside. That slides over, drops into the groove. After that, we're going to put our next washer in, or spacer in there. And the clutch plate holder goes on after that. Just line that up with the splines. Easier said than done sometimes. Okay, the next thing you'll have is a flat washer. It looks like it's all smashed out. Unless it's beat up super bad, you just keep reusing them. A lot of times there's like two little dots, or you might have multiple dots. Just find a couple dots that are already in the clutch basket and try to line it up with those the best you can. And then your lock washer goes on. And then your clutch basket nut. The clutch basket nuts get tightened to 70 foot-pounds. So we'll snug that up. Again, I'm just making sure my little washer, my little flat washer stayed kind of in the place it was in the first place. Okay. Then we got a clutch basket tool here. Basically, this is going to keep the clutch from spinning while I'm tightening it down, while I'm torquing it. So it just slides in the groove there. You don't want it to hit your Kickstarter, so make sure when you're pulling this to torque it, don't just rest it on the Kickstarter and crank down on it, because you will damage your Kickstarter or you'll bend something in the engine. So again, do not use your Kickstarter as leverage. 70 foot-pounds, and don't put a lot of extensions on there. You might have to put one on there to get it past that. If I grab the right socket, I'll be all set. That's a 29mm socket. Again, when I'm pushing down, I'm not going to push down on the Kickstarter. I put an extension and a socket on there just to kind of help me put some more leverage on here. If you got somebody helping you, you can have them hold the other side down, but since I'm doing this by myself, and again, I want to make sure that doesn't wobble out of place like it just did on me. So make sure that's nice and flush up against the back. And we'll torque it. So I had this off. I took these and I took the emery cloth to them, and I made them nice and smooth. They're not grooved up really bad. If you've got any major grooves in there, basically the basket or the clutch may hang up on it. So you want that to move as smoothly as possible. Mine wasn't super bad. Again, don't dig into it with the emery cloth, because you don't want to get them all out of balance. You don't want to dig into one more than the other, because you'll cause problems. Alright, so we're ready to put the clutch back together. My clutch has been soaking in oil, so if these were, if you're reusing the clutches, you don't need to do that, but since these are new, put them in. The spacers are optional. Basically, this will sit in between the steel and the clutch, and it just kind of separates the clutch, so it helps separate a little bit. Some people run them, some people don't. If you're going to run them, just make sure they're not damaged. I want to leave mine in there since the bike is pretty much factory. So the first thing we want to do is we want to do a clutch. Make sure it's all the way in there. And we want to do a spacer or separator. Then a steel. Again, I'm replacing the steels and the clutches on this. My other clutch was dragging, or it was locking up, so I don't know if I had a warped steel. One of the steels on the other clutches was actually thicker than the other ones. I don't know if that's normal or not. I've never seen it happen. Don't know if the person that put it together last time just grabbed what they had, maybe out of a different bike, different kit, not sure. But either way, I'm replacing them just in case. And again, we're going disc, spacer, steel, or spreader. Disc, spreader, steel. You want to do this all the way to the outside edge, or out actually to where the basket retainer is. Been a long day. Kind of talking over myself here. Okay. And steel. Clutch. There. Steel. And the rag is not doing much good there. Everything's dripping right on the floor. Okay. Now before you put your next clutch on, what you have to do here, you gotta do one of two things. Either you don't use the basket clamp and you just keep putting the discs on, or use the basket clamp. I've done both, and I've seen and heard both ways. Basically, this little ring here goes around the outside of the basket, and what it does is it keeps the basket from spreading apart. So when you're at high RPMs, basically it keeps the clutch discs from slipping and sliding underneath of the basket. So it actually keeps the basket from expanding and the clutch is moving. So run it if you want, don't run it if you don't want to. If you have one, personally I suggest running it. Now the only difference is when you put the spreader on, what you'll have to do is you have to grind down one of the tabs on the clutch discs. So one whole clutch disc, you're going to have to grind down every tab to make it fit underneath the spreader. You don't have to do it much, but you have to do it enough that it'll actually still move back and forth. If not, it's going to grab the ring, and then you're going to have your clutch grabbing. Now in this case, mine, it looks like the spreader is not even. It's actually bent. I'll try it on there a different way. Because if mine's damaged, I'm not going to use it. This bike is still pretty much stock. I don't have anything high performance on it. I'm just going to ride it around, get on it every now and then, but not super bad. I don't think I'm going to spin those out of there. Don't think I'm going to hit the RPMs I need to blow it apart, but And actually I put it back on that way. That must be the way it was on there in the first place because that fits much better that way. So if you're going to use it and you do what I just did and you put it on there, it doesn't look right, spin it around the other direction, see if it fits better. Again, these discs right here, this next one that's going to go on is not going to fit under that band very well. So I'm actually hitting that band. So by not taking down the top part of this little tab here, the clutches aren't going to mesh together and you're going to have a problem. So I'm going to have to put this on a grinder and take down basically not half, but just a few millimeters off each one of these so it clears underneath of that band. Now, call me a monkey's uncle, but I just pulled it back apart and I'm looking at these. And this is a Barnett set of clutches. There's one that's already been ground down just for that purpose. If you buy a set of other brands of clutches, they don't do that and you have to do it. So in this case, I got lucky and actually paid attention to what I was doing. And notice when I was looking back through the tops of the tabs, that one was shorter than the other ones. Looks like that way. And again, that clutch disc is moving freely underneath of that. Double checking, even though it's a factory grind, I want to make sure it's clearing, which it is. Spreader. And more steel. Last of the clutches. Last of the spacers. Spreaders, spacer. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is put my pusher in. It's one of those fun facts of life that you save until you get old before you ever admit to your wrongdoings. One of the first clutches I ever did, I didn't put the pusher back in it. And you can imagine how well that clutch worked with no pusher inside of it. So, put your pusher in. Okay. Just put a little bit of gear oil on that. Now when you put this back on, if you look on here, one of these little holes has a tab on it. If you look on the clutch basket, it has a tab or a dot on it. That's an alignment point. That's where that goes. You don't want to put it on somewhere where it doesn't belong at. So it's going to go on right back in there. Got my wells back in. Alignment done. Like so. So we're ready for springs. So the springs I'm using are the Barnett's. They're the black springs. They're not the super heavy duty ones. Ran heavy duties before. The ones I pulled out of here were gray. I'm not sure what tension those were. It didn't feel like a super heavy duty clutch. And then I've had people show me in the past where they put 3 heavy duty springs and 1 stock spring in there. I'm just going to run what come with the kit. And you want to start these by hand if possible, so you're going to have to put a little pressure on them so you don't strip them out. But you just want to get them started, and then you can run them the rest of the way in with your ratchet. But the last thing you want to do is cross thread these. So I'm basically just pushing in with the washer and pushing the spring down with my thumb at the same time. So using the left thumb to push in, take some tension off, and right hand to start my bolts. Okay. Just going to run these down. I think the torque on these are only like 5 foot-pounds, or not much at all. And again, the reason behind that is because their springs are under a ton of tension. And when you run these in, don't just crank one down and crank the other one down. You want to just keep going back and forth, so you're tightening the clutch down evenly. You can kind of eyeball it and see if one's up higher than the other, or you can just count the turns on your wrench, however you want to do it, but basically tighten them all down evenly.